We've got some negative energy in the room tonight. That's all I got.
Positive.
Yeah, so
Negative, positive.
Exactly.
Well, welcome everyone to July's Helicon West. Woohoo! Featured reader is us. We're so happy you could be here with us tonight. Just a couple of reminders. You have 7 minutes to read your work. Up to 7 minutes. You don't have to take 7 minutes, but if you supersede that, we'll clap you off to make room for everyone else. Clap you right off. And we will be recording this, and all our videos are uploaded to our YouTube channel. So if you don't want to be recorded, just kind of give me a cut signal over here. I'll be by the camera, and I will turn it off for you. When you sign up, you can drop us your email as well, and we'll send you the link to the video after it is uploaded. Other than that, we are uncensored, and we have coffee. We have so much coffee, so drink some coffee. If you want to sign up but haven't, it is over by Said Coffee. And
May I do an announcement?
you may. And Star has a couple announcements for us.
Cool. You can stay up here while I announce. I keep thinking that Chad will be here because he's on a couple of broadsides, but he's busy working and getting married and stuff like that. So this broadside has his poem, Winter Camp, and it has artwork by McKenna Murdoch, and it's edited by Tasha Urban. See that light down there in all the times. This broadside has Chad's poem, The Way You Know. This Brenda Hawley art we've used on another broadside in the past. It's just such a stunning, vibrant color, and it has such whimsical and yet a little bit eerie kind of look on it. We really like that. So we have 3 very important things coming up. First, the May Swenson House Poetry Walkabout, and that is on the 3rd Thursday in August, Thursday 16th at 5:20. We are meeting at the site of the old May Swenson House. It's on, what's that on, Mitch, the Swenson House? Is it on 5th North and 6th East approximately, next to the Kane House is where we're meeting. And I'll send out an announcement about that. We're going to be writing poems taking off from May Swenson lines, and we're going to have a contest for students. So if you know any high school, junior high, high school, or college students, tell them that they can join this contest with the May Swenson lines. If they write a poem and it gets selected, they will be able to read it at the May Swenson groundbreaking ceremony in September 18th. We're breaking ground to build the May Swenson House. So that's going to be really cool. And then remember that August 23rd is the last Helicon West of the summer. Our endless open mic summer ends on the 23rd, just for 2018. 2019 will have some endless open mic. Okay, is that all I think I'm going to do? So? Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Star.
And please give Britt a hand for all the stuff she does as MC for the summer.
All right, without further ado, we'll get started with our first 3 readers, and they will be Suzanne Yelton, Isaac Tim, and Brittany Allen.
The first one I would like to read is called Goodbyes. Goodbye to my throat. The ocean in Yachats, Oregon can be angry. Throwing itself against the large boulders, it tries to escape the rules of moon and earth. When it is angry, it heaves itself almost to the ancient 804 trail. When calm, the shoreline is its boundary. We started going to Yachats when our boys were young. Now they are middle-aged, sorry about that, and my husband and I are old. We have collected a lifetime of memories in Yachats, but there is one memory that I alone saw. and it's still with me. The sun had turned into a big red glow, just slightly above the horizon, when I realized I was no longer alone. She was beautiful. Long, reddish hair, light-colored skin, framed a perfect porcelain, but determined face. Her light green chiffon dress blew slightly in the now calm ocean breeze as she began to adjust the bagpipes she was carrying. I quickly walked farther away. As the sun touched the horizon, she began to play the beautiful old tune of Amazing Grace. The sad moaning sound of the bagpipes touched my heart. Tears filled my eyes. When she finished playing, she stood there, transfixed, on some sight that only she could see. I believe the waves carried her music to the one she loved. When in her soul the goodbyes were said, she turned and walked away. I never saw her again, yet I still carry her with me. So holy was that moment in time that I will always remember the beautiful young woman with hair of reddish gold, who in the twilight played the bagpipes from her soul. That's the first one. Thank you. This is a little different. I worked for 19 years at Skyview High School in severe special ed. And you see a lot when you work around teenagers, the good and the bad. Some of you have been around little chicks. You see them, at IFA or wherever, and when you put them under a heat lamp and they grow. But the weakest little chick gets pecked to death. And that's what some of us do in life. We do that to one another. And this is about that. It's called meat eaters. We are the meat eaters. We devour each other, or accept one another based on our looks, speech, and wealth. Our clothes speak of wealth. Our speech tells of our education. Our looks determine our acceptance. All of the above place us in a pack that will either take us in or devour us. For we are the meat eaters. We offer no apology. We will either accept or devour. For we are the meat eaters. And you are our prey. Thank you.
I was clapping, and then I'm like, oh wait, I gotta go up. I'm next. Can't wait to hear the next person. Like, I'm the next person. Straightened out. All right. I'm reading my poems from the Helicon West Anthology.
Woo!
You can, Brittany's in it, Star's in it. Just a few other folks I know are in it. So I'm going to read some of my car poems. And this is the first time I've read this poem, Youth of July, in July.
Nice. It's a good poem.
The Youth of July. Girl of 15 hangs out the window, slender arm waving like a moth at a friend passing or past. Her escort, a phantom young man from the nose down, eyes lost to the glare. The street flows with the youth of July, some to eddy in parking lots, pieces of green yard, spread on blankets, piled on tailgates, laughter like bells over bass, caught in the small moments between the passing of cars, a cavalcade of tanned elbows and flashing faces under the halo of bangs. Pretty smiling girls to be lost and discovered, passing and turning, crossing in and out of lanes. Sex rumbles in the heart like an engine, a slow present backbeat happening below sheltering cottonwoods, under lap throws, flush young faces, fumbling hands, groping as if ecstasy can be lost, to flow endlessly to the east out of town with honking traffic and now headlights. Evening casts itself out. Beer cans come out of hiding from under daddy's gun rack, from behind mama's quilt, down on the floorboard, and they drink until midnight, until dispersed by unseen hands, replaced by an empty street, a single slow squad car, neon that winks closed. But somewhere in the rumble under the street lamp, the promise of another Friday night. I've got one more. Icarus, 1981. 17 years, his father's pride. Oh God, how the girls would sigh as he moved, driven like Alexander. Boy, not made for this dusty dead end where nothing flies but his black and gold Trans Am, 400 cubic inches factory prime. Divine Firebird pulls easily this chariot past 85. Smile on his face, hand on his thigh, but the desert tells the truth well before it tells a lie. One blink turns gravel into sky. Oh God, the sun is too high. They say it rolled 4 times before it came to rest, his body thrown broken to the earth. They push his car into a pit, for it had cost his life. As far as I know, it lays there still, body rusting next to fire. Thank you.
All right, I've just brought one short poem with me today, and it's called Aviary Affairs. Bring your tittering crows to bed. The pretty black slips of their eyes can gawk as you prune back the flesh round my pubis mons to more finely fillet the rose-pink giblets of wife meat, a midnight carrion's feast of curdled femur milk and marital defeat. Good birds with terry-feathered lashes deserve a treat.
Damn.
Those are words. All right. Our next 3 readers, oh, they're the spouses, except for Tim. But we will be Aaron Tim, Nathan Allen, and Tim. But thanks. And again, if you want to sign up, it's over here.
We could just claim Tim as our universal spouse.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
Okay. First.
And hopefully not the last. Okay, so hi. I'm Erin. Whatever. Anyway, I have poems, so there you go. This is called Fay Child. I should have taken you then, when you were small enough to fit in my arms. Should have made a raft and set you adrift, a baby Moses in reverse. Not set off by a doting mother, rather hidden in the rushes by the childless princess. Should have given you to the Goblin King. You would have lived then in a childhood free from hurt and worry. I always had an extra room for you, could have made a bed of blankets, could have given you a childhood of books and long walks. In fairy tales, childless couples are given the unwanted baby to raise as their own. In reality, childless couples are passed over, advice ignored, Giving birth is the key to respect, adulation. The real world has no time for trivialities like love, care, wonder, compassion. No, the real world is busy with important things, genetics and a driver's license. These make a mother, nothing more. And the second poem is called Yellow Bathtub. 1. It was twice the size of any tub we ever had. It was slanted in the back, perfect for making waves in the water. I loved pushing myself back and forth, building waves that sloshed over the faucet and then slammed into the back wall, raining water over me. 2. This same tub was where I'd cover my face with my red washcloth. I'd suck bath water until the rag stuck suctioned to my face and I struggled to breathe. Would think, could I die this way? How lovely to just stop breathing. 3. My brother would kneel on my chest, press his weight on me. He would stay this way until my vision blurred, and I would think, could I die this way? And I did pass out once, only for a few seconds. But it was enough to scare him from ever doing it again. There is no easy way out of anything, I guess. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nathan.
Hi, Nathan.
I'm going to read you a couple of my poems. Should have this up and ready, but I didn't. I'm sorry, everyone. Okay. The first one is called Break Time. Sitting by yourself, staring into the horizon with nothing to say, makes you look crazy. Unless you have a cigarette, then you're a philosopher. Rain smells nice, but the chill seems personal when the tobacco demands my attention. An annoying best friend that demands I pull them through hard times a healthy person can brush off alone. Back to work. Paint the base coat. Mid-grain, low-grain, shadow, blend, highlight. Break time. My best ideas come when I'm smoking. I'm relaxed, reset, refreshed, filled with cancerous hugs in the form of fire. Too bad my hands are too busy clutching a vice to write them down. Back to the grind. Measure. Measure twice. Cut once. Pre-drill. Set. Screw. Repeat. Break time. A drag has been needed for years, it seems. Blow rings of clouds to impress myself. See how the ants react when surrounded by a fog of toxicity. They don't do much. Fascinate myself with cracks in the cement that somehow seem inspiring in that moment of serenity. Feel the buzzing sensation as my blood fills with poison that I cherish. Back to the party. Pour a drink. Drink. Pretend I care about a stranger's work. Flirt. Unsuccessfully. Flirt. Hoping I'm not successful. Break time. Finally comfortable in the sunset's glow. Not because the golden light is soothing. The solitude is entrancing, but that stick of fire warms my weary worries into submission, and I finally have a brain I can work with, one that's on my side for a moment. Bastard of a habit. Dumbest thing I ever let myself get into. The friend that's always exactly what I need, stabbing me in the back. Reading this is stressing me out. Break time. Second one, similarly, is called Chain Smoking. Cigarette number 7 made me puke. Asphalt and tar won't burn my feet like I want. It's too early in the morning for the sun to make painful parking lots. I want to hurt for reasons I can control. Cigarette number 8 tastes terrible. I'm so nauseated. My eyes are so heavy from laying by my lover all night without sleep. My lover I love and who truly loves me but can't let go of her guilt. Cigarette number 9 doesn't taste like anything, or I can't taste. I still haven't coughed, just puke. Again, but not from cigarettes. From wondering what pet names she uses when consoling her begging and weeping commitment. Cigarette number 10 feels heavy in my fingers that she sucked on, that held a razor that she wanted me to cut her with. She wanted me to scar her. Maybe she wanted to make me a commitment in blood. She told me she wants me more lots of times while with him, her commitment, but she can't pull the trigger, so I did. Cigarette number 11 I gave to an elderly Hispanic man who spoke broken English. He sat next to me and kept looking at me as though I resented him. He didn't know that look in my eyes was me resenting myself. I'm sure I looked angry. I do when I'm trying not to look shattered. Cigarette number 12 made my eyes burn. I stared at pictures of her and didn't move. I had to light it 4 times. God, I just realized I took her lighter by mistake. Cigarette number 13 isn't worth my effort, but I do it anyway because I lose those sorts of battles with myself. Cigarette number 14 went down out of spite for a desire to stop desiring friends. Good friends tell me that this will pass. I hope they're right. But I doubt it. This one's different. I'm going to smoke my bones, dried and crushed into powder. She'll watch the flowers I gave her die and feel that cut I gave her when she asked me to. I should quit. Smoking isn't healthy.
Could you turn the camera on for this one?
Thanks, Tim. And our next 3 readers are Diane Hardy, Ronald Jensen, and Rex Lambert.
This is a story I wrote called Aura. I'm feline, a smuggled cat, not allowed to live where I do, in a trailer park called palatial living. Within days of getting me, Mom had me fixed. Ridiculous because, being contraband, I'm housebound and have never been outdoors. I only learned about that sex stuff last summer when she held me up to the window while we watched a couple of cats in the grip of ecstasy. At first it looked interesting, the big orange striped one clamping down on the black one's head had her right between his jaws. Just envisioning a fight made my hair stand on end. I was howling as loud as they were, but safe on my side. Then the mean one quit biting and I think went to sleep on the other one's back. Much ado about nothing, so I made my way to the computer monitor for a nap. Mom got a real kick out of it and stayed watching until the big one left. Life hasn't all been rosy. Cats are supposed to be independent. Although embarrassed to admit it, there are times when I'm downright needy. It's Mom's fault because she's preoccupied with her music, spending hours at the piano oblivious to me. Giving her attention is easier when she talks on the phone and I bite her foot, not hard, just enough to irritate her. She'll yell, "Aura, you naughty girl," and toss me across the room. So far I haven't found anything to work where music is involved. Wikipedia says if you can't beat them, join them. That's what I decided to do with Mom. Started listening to the music she plays. Much is popular stuff from the 1950s, her day, but some is highbrow like the music of Beethoven. So when she plays Moonlight Sonata, I come running and sing. Moonlight does that to me, fence or no fence. Fur-Elise makes me content enough to fall asleep in the middle. Mom doesn't notice whether I'm singing or sleeping because, like I said, at the piano she's in her own world. On weekends we get company, Mom's kids, Tony, Rachel, and Glenn. Last summer I had a horrendous encounter with a yellow cat. I sat watching a robin out front when this big guy jumped up on my porch. Viciously we fought through the screen until Mom, hearing the ruckus, chased the ugly one away. I fled under our bed and stayed for hours. Sheesh, I wonder if my tail would ever go back to normal. Mom often sings to me while we're in our cushy blue chair. That's because she and I are the only ones ever there. Long ago, Glenn gave it a bad rap due to my gray hair pasted the here and there. When he says, "Mom, that chair's loaded with cat hair, you need to vacuum it," she obeys, but his efforts to make me look bad don't work because she and I appreciate the blending of blue and gray. We're sensitive to creative expression, art, which he doesn't understand, being obsessive compulsive, plus an intolerant redneck. Anyway, Mom owns hundreds of CDs. My all-time favorite one is by Jim Reeves. We were sitting in our chair one day listening. I was dozing in and out, lulled by the opening strains of Four Walls. Jim's caressing voice began, "Out where the bright lights are glowing, you're drawn like a moth to a flame." I shot up wide awake. "A moth? Where? I'd like to get my paws on that." Last year, a major crisis glued me and Mom fast as a flea on a dog. I've always known she was leaving me before she ever did, even before she hauled out the suitcase. I'd tried lying down on top of it. In protest, I'd also hidden, refusing to say goodbye, but nothing ever kept her home. She'd be gone for a couple of days at the most. But last September, when she left, things felt different. Instead of driving her car, she went away with Glenn and stayed a long time. Every few days, he'd let himself into our house and call, "Where's my good kitty?" like Mom does. The first time it happened, I fell for it and came running, but never again. Hiding under the bed, I thought, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. You know, I'm pretty smart. I said that better than that one guy. Who was that? Oh yeah, former President George Bush. He was before my time, but Mom must have liked him because she always imitated him in a funny voice and finished with saying, heh. Anyway, at our house, when Mom was gone, Glenn would set out food and fresh water. Then he'd start shoveling crap out of my litter box. Within seconds, he'd be cussing like a preacher. Ah, sweet revenge. The separation wore on both me and Mom. When she came home 3 weeks later, I was hoarse from crying and wild with fear, not about to let her even touch me. Come to think of it, she didn't even try. All 3 kids were at our house the following weekend. "Well, Mom, you're looking better than you did when you first had your knee replacement," Tony said. "Sorry I couldn't stay longer." And then she shrugged and she said, "That's the life of a mortician. I'm always on call, whether it's slow or they're dying like flies." Wow, I like that. I found one once, killed and ate it slicker than shit. "When did you notice that Mom wasn't all right?" Tony asked Glenn. "She was doing well, but in a lot of pain while in the hospital, so they gave her more drugs," he said. "Yeah," Rachel agreed. 2 days later, they took her to a rehab center to recover. She was on massive doses of morphine, Valium, and Loratab all at the same time, completely out of her head. We were in her room visiting when someone turned on the TV. It was LDS conference, and Mom blurted out, "Turn that off, it's a conspiracy." Tony laughed. I never haven't once heard her use that word. We hadn't either, Glenn chuckled. "I still feel bad for the help," said Rachel. "The lady on night shift was sweet and caring, but the more patient she was, the worse Mom treated her. Kept calling her Nurse Ratchet in pink." "Oh, that's terrible," Tony cried. "You think she got it?" Mom stared straight ahead. "But I got it. I'm not called Ara for nothing." I looked over at the video of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest sitting on the bookcase shelf. Mom loves Jack Nicholson because they're both rebels. What happened with the therapist?" Rachel asked, before she came home. And Glenn said, "The therapist came in, introduced himself, seen her at the piano, said, 'Do you play?' 'Yes,' she said, smiling, and placed her hands on the keyboard." Glenn paused. "Well, Mom couldn't play a note, and she's been suicidal at different times since. The doctor advised us to not push the music playing. He said she would know when the time is right, but it hasn't happened yet." That explains it, I thought. It also explains the day she hugged me, Ara, hard enough that I had trouble breathing, crying all the time. Ara, help me. Music's been with me longer than anything in my life." And all I could do was lick her, but I did that till my tongue was sore. Her 13th day home, I woke to find her shuffling through movies. She reached for the Hours movie. Knowing I better do something drastic, I leapt to the chair, flew over to the shelf, and knocked Awakenings to the door. To the floor. It's about patients in a hospital for the chronically ill and a doctor who brings them out of a catatonic state. "Doggone it, Ara, look what you've done," she yelled, shoving me to the floor. But she picked up the box, thought a moment, and then put the movie into the machine. There's a scene where the doctor, Robert Williams, races onto the patient's ward in the middle of the night to find everyone chattering about their lives as though it was 40 years earlier. A man sits at the grand piano playing a Jerome Kern song called "All the Things You Are." Mom stared wide-eyed at the TV, her mouth dropped open. She grabbed the remote and paused the movie. She tossed me from her lap, rose from our chair, and hobbled to the piano. "I can do that," she declared, and then she played "The Way We Were" as though there had been no hiatus, laughing and crying at the same time. We never even finished the movie. That was a year ago. Now Glenn is having his own crisis. Mom has him over to eat lunch every day because he's depressed and gaunt looking. I heard her demand that he promise her the same thing that she promised him, to not do anything bad. I'm actually getting more used to him. Instead of running to hide when he comes, I stay put on our chair. Mom noticed and told me, "That's good, Ara. You need to be in here because we are all family and maybe you can help him just like you helped me." Tragedy changes people. Yesterday, Glenn petted me.
Hi.
Hi there, Ron.
What am I going to go? 7. The first 7 years of life seemed like a long time. From 1962 to 1969. Now you've been gone for that many years. I think about it home. Sometimes gives me tears. You raised many children until I was 7. I long to see you again when we get to heaven. Where would I be? Where would I be if I hadn't met you? If I lost my home, what would I do? I'm glad you came along and said I do. So now I'm able to live with you. The God is that God watches over me. Since He blessed me with you for eternity.
Me?
Yep, you're up.
Oh. Moving slow, sorry. Been a couple of weeks of minor disasters. Mr. Owie here almost cut it off. Anyway, tonight I want to read 2 poems, one short and then the last one long. They're both vintage, I mean really vintage. This one, first one I wrote in 1974. My wife and I were living in Alaska. It takes a little bit of explanation. This has a weird publication history, this particular poem. So I wrote the poem, published it in the pipeline. We were working on the Trans-Alaska Pipeline, 1974. And so this thing is 800 miles long. It's got 20 pipeline camps spaced all along the thing. And they're basically all men who live in these pipeline camps, right? So Shirley and I were up there. We both got work on the pipeline, drove from Arizona to Alaska. And on the eve of my being reassigned to one of these pipeline camps, I wrote this poem, and it was published in the Camp Follower, which was the name of the newspaper that went to all the camps, right? But that wasn't the end of this poem. A year later, I'm living in Houston, working on a different pipeline project, and I get a letter from a novelist by the name of Bruce Dobler. He's writing a novel about the pipeline, and he had read my poem and wanted to use it in his novel. And so, was this okay? And I said, I had not read, a draft of the novel. I just told him, sure, use it, that's fine. So, in 1976, the novel was published by Little Brown. It was, I don't know if it was a success or not, but he sent me a copy. And sure enough, the poem was not only in there, but this guy named Rex Lambert is this minor character. This poet who's living and working in Alaska writes this poem. And in the scene in the novel, this redneck pipeliner is reading my poem to his girlfriend on the eve of his leaving. He's kind of an inarticulate guy. He's trying to express his love for her. And so he reads my poem. So here it is, Words That Mean Goodbye, written in 1974. Lying beside you, loving you more than myself, I cannot find the words that mean goodbye. My tongue is like a frozen river. My heart is heavy and dark with the thought of leaving you here. Outside, winter dawns like pale fire over Fairbanks. The cold, bitter air cracks white like a dying ember. Tomorrow night, when the southern camps settle into dull and dreamless sleep, weary with the laughter of lonely men, I will ask myself again to trust that this is not forever, that we will be together soon. Lying beside you, loving you more than myself, I cannot find the words that mean goodbye. So that was 1974, and then republished in 1976 in this novel. This next one is a little longer one, and it has a story too. It was published originally in 1977 in an anthology called Southwest, a contemporary anthology. And, but the genesis of the poem was in an experience that I had in the Poets in the Schools program in a remote Indian reservation boarding school in 1974. So 3 years prior to the publication. But my wife and I went to this little reservation school halfway between Phoenix and Tucson, which is now actually a Pima Indian reservation, a reservation on the Gila River. But in the early days, from the 1st century to the 15th century, the Hohokam Indians lived there, right? And then they just sort of disappeared. But they were farmers, and they built these canals, ditches is what they called them, all around the valley of Phoenix, where Phoenix is now. And that gave the early pioneers the idea to build canals. So this is from that experience of teaching poetry to those kids on the reservation. It's called The Last Hohokam. And again, the Hohokams are gone now. So, The Last Hohokam. Too old to be a ditch digger, but young enough to dance. He comes each day at noon to the white cement schoolyard with his dime store drum and gourd rattles, his loosely woven baskets and brightly colored hoops, claiming to be the last Hohokam, a skillful builder of canals. And all the children believe him. Really just a Pima pushing 90. All the teachers say he's senile, a harmless Indian elder drunk with age and bad homebrewed whiskey. They stand outlined in classroom doors, jealously watching their children as they cluster eagerly about his feet like green spring grass, calling him grandfather. Grandfather, they shout, teach us another dance in honor of the new season. Already the earth in our father's fields, tilled and seeded last month, begins to quiver and tremble like a mare ready to foal. The warm sun has melted winter from our legs and made us restless. Hurry, grandfather, we are stiff with hibernation and waiting. The last Hohokam settles cross-legged on the hard, uncomfortable ground, cradling his drum in a nest of blue denim and brittle bone. The children scramble for baskets and hoops, and the one who is left without snares the rattles like a prize in his palms. As he shakes his fist in the air, the rest of the children fall into line. In the white cement schoolyard, poised on the brink of assertion, an anxious tendril of children coils around the ancient dancer like a thin, nervous snake. Listening to hissed instructions flicked lizard-like from a tongue through a gap in his teeth. Then the circle breaks to movement, slow and deliberate, and the hissing turns to song. Baskets filled with flowers and fruit hover precariously atop the tossing, tumbling heads, and the hoops gripped by tiny fingers reel and sway like frantic birds in the shimmering, resonant air. Grandfather, hunched above his quivering drum, exhales tradition from the nostrils of winter, measured and monotone, like sweet mesquite smoke, to the patter of prancing feet. Yet at full hysterical stride, when young, exquisite bodies leap deliriously sunward like plants to the frenzied beat of a drum, rattles, and an old man's chant, school bells clamor their deafening summons, teachers intrude with threats of reprisal, and in one bewildering moment of bedlam, the children drop back and scatter like chaff to the beckoning safety of classrooms. And now, alone in the still, deserted schoolyard, where excited voices stubbornly linger like cobwebs under the eaves of modern whitewashed buildings, grandfather, last of a tribe of industrious ditch diggers, rises and gathers the abandoned relics of his heritage, having given his children the coming out dance and the first legacy of spring. Thank you.
All right, Thank you to all our readers for coming tonight. Are there any last minute inspirations? Alrighty, then we will see you all on August 23rd. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Brent.